Well, welcome everybody to another weekly Zoom call. This week we have a special Central Vermont guest, Jill Dellipriscoli. Jill is a Montpelier native who graduated from Montpelier High School in 2009. She grew up playing multiple sports and played for Capital Soccer Club her entire club career. She won the Vermont State Championship in 2007, 8? 2008?
No, we didn't make 2007.
Yeah. She was also recruited to play Division I soccer at the University of Vermont, where she excelled under two head coaches and played all 4 years. While at UVM, Jill earned her nursing degree and graduated in 2013. After UVM, she went on to work at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, where she stayed there from 2014 to 2018. After that, she started her travel nursing career for a couple of years, right? Bouncing from Reno, back to Philly, back to Phoenix out west, but has relatively recently returned to live in Philadelphia. And now works at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia again. And also a disclaimer, she's my younger sister, but as I'm sure she would agree, I'm probably her toughest critic, so it'll be some hard-hitting questions tonight. So Jill, welcome. How you doing?
Thanks, I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, loving the U.S. national team jersey.
I know. Got it, especially for last summer.
Nice. Why don't we start with right now, since we're kind of in a unique situation. How has it been managing this pandemic personally, and what's it like to continue to work, especially in a hospital during it?
Yeah. Luckily for me, it hasn't been as bad with kids. So, I mean, you guys, I don't know what you're seeing on the news, but most of the news I see is just like really scary. But actually the hospitals, especially at CHOP, we've been way less busy because we haven't been doing like scheduled surgeries or any of that stuff. But I have worked on the COVID unit at CHOP, and there's been a few sick kids, but it's mostly older kids who have the like medical issues that would probably cause them to be sick. So like, I'm very thankful to still have a job. I feel for people who are totally out of a routine right now and totally like not making any income. So that being said, I try and think about all those times where I was so annoyed when I would have to work holidays, and then so thankful for job security like this. It is a little scary. Like I want to come home and visit Vermont, but obviously I know I'm probably more at risk and I need to take the precautions to probably get tested and stuff like that. So, but overall, I mean, it has almost been kind of a break for us at the Children's Hospital because our census is always so high. And during this time, it's actually been a lot lower because of all this.
Yeah. Huh, interesting.
Yeah, but like I said, if I was still traveling right now, all of my friends are filed for unemployment, don't have benefits, stuff like that. And I was a little bit torn going back full-time at CHOP after traveling. And I guess it was kind of fate that I took a full-time job and have hours that I get to work.
Yeah, and certainly living in the city, I think it's a little bit different experience than living in Montpelier in Central Vermont. And I know we're experiencing kind of different things right now in Vermont and Pennsylvania and Philadelphia specifically. We're actually in the process of getting together our in-person training again for soccer. So we're really looking forward to that. And of course, you know this area so well, you know this club so well as a former player and as a former coach. I was just wondering, you know, if you could talk a little bit about your youth career and just growing up in Montpelier.
Yeah. I love like looking back on like my youth career and just growing up in Montpelier in general. I know mom and dad would probably say I was a brat sometimes, not loving it, but you definitely cherish it a lot more when you look back. Like rec soccer was always so fun to go there on Saturday mornings and see all your friends and do that. And then just like especially comparing it to the area around here, like we were so lucky to have training within 10-15 minutes of us, and still get, you know, pretty competitive teams with the Central Vermont region. And then just like the coaches we had in general, like, I mean, to have such a small area and have like really well qualified like collegiate coaches, and then to get the competition, like looking back on it now, it really was, I mean, it's a special thing, especially comparing it. There's some huge clubs out here and stuff, but people really, you can still have like a life in Montpelier and like get out some good soccer playing with Capital Soccer. So it was so nice to kind of have that balance.
Nice. When did you start playing for Capital?
I don't even know. I think I played on a U13 team as a 10-year-old. I can just remember a lot of the Barry girls who like I thought were so cool because they were 3 years older than me. But I can't even remember. I can't remember who was. I think George, you were my coach then. And it was so fun. And like I loved playing up because it made me more competitive. But ever since then, like the camps were great. Indoor was so fun. And then I had George, I had Pete. I never had Bags as a Capital coach because he was always coaching my high school teams. And then obviously Steph played into a big role when I was in high school. So that was good.
Yeah. And you played for Capital through your entire club career, right?
Yep. Yeah. I did ODP a couple times. So I met some girls from Far Post and Nordic. But honestly, like I said, for my lifestyle and like the competition, like our team was always good. I always had great coaches, and the ease of just being able to travel 15 minutes to training twice a week, I thought was just so manageable, and so lucky for that.
Nice.
Yeah.
And so from high school, and again, very successful at MHS, obviously soccer, but you also played basketball there. Did you play another sport at MHS?
Yeah, well, for 2 years I played softball because all the girls that were my friends played softball. And then I played tennis the last 2 years. And this is one thing that I think you got to kind of make the decision if you want to be playing collegiate soccer is I straight up told my tennis coach that Capital will always come first. And so I never really played in matches because fair to the other kids, like if you're not going to put the commitment in there. And that was fine. Like I would leave early, and Peter Kim was my coach. So like, even if that wasn't my choice, he probably would have, not liked it either. So it was totally my choice. And I was so thankful that I had my tennis coach just let me be there because it's Wendy Watson. So she was basically like my fitness coach.
Yeah. Nice. Well, I think that's a good segue into getting into college soccer. You kind of knew that you wanted to play college soccer. And I guess your story is probably a story that, a lot of people in Central Vermont want to be able to replicate, right? Becoming, going from a Central Vermont high school and playing for the University of Vermont, which is the only Division I school in the state. So could you talk to us a little bit about the recruiting process? How did you end up at UVM, and what role did Capital play in all of that?
Yeah. So the recruiting process, I tried to kind of go about it. I was lucky to have you be my older brother who had already gone through the whole recruiting process. So like dad was great with that. Like I said, it was obviously really helpful to have like Peter and George, who were college coaches, to kind of help me kind of navigate that. And then, like I said, Steph Mead was my current Capital coach who had a connection at UVM. I was definitely a little hesitant to put all my eggs in UVM's basket just because I kind of wanted to see other things. But when it came down to it, I really made a connection with Steph. UVM's campus was awesome. And I wanted somewhere where I could actually play D1 and have it fit like my style of play. And then most importantly, I knew I wanted to do nursing. So, I mean, I knew I wasn't going pro or anything with soccer. So I wanted somewhere where I could prioritize nursing and then also play. And I was really lucky. And I think that's half of what recruiting is making connections with people. I was really lucky to have Steph and have George have that UVM connection and really kind of lead me in the right direction. So like it all kind of just lined up great.
Yeah.
And I got some like scholarships, so it was awesome. Like there's really no way I could have turned down my offer.
Nice. So let's talk a little about when you landed in UVM. You know, I think obviously just kind of watching your career kind of unfold there for you. You had a lot of ups and downs. Your experience, you had two coaches. You know, you started out with one coach and then a new coach came in halfway through your career. So a difficult time for a player, but I think in the end, you had a really successful career at UVM. So why don't you talk about your college experience? Did it live up to what you thought it would be? Were you as successful as you wanted to be?
Yeah, so obviously, like, I love my college career. I think if you talk to anyone who ended up playing college, especially D1, a lot of the times I wouldn't change a thing, but if I thought about going back to it right now, it is very overwhelming to think about how like I got through it all. It was especially hard. I found out Steph Mead wasn't gonna be back the fall that I actually was starting with my initial coach. So that was a new assistant coach there who I actually ended up being my next head coach. But it was tough, and it was hard going from Central Vermont, where, I mean, it's a smaller population, and I went from being a big star to going somewhere where all these big stars were recruited, and they played in some like bigger areas where there were more people to kind of choose from. So I think that was the biggest shock, was going from, oh, I can't really just rely on my athleticism right now and, you know, my competitiveness. Like, I kind of have to work to even play. So that was tough. And it was hard just being like a student in general. And then I was playing for a coach who I didn't really feel like he believed in me, because I think he only really believed in any player where they came from a big club that he's heard of, and couldn't really see potential past that. But I'm really happy I stuck with it, because my senior year from my next coach, like it paid off, and it only made me want to work harder. But I don't think I would have got through without the girls I played with. I made my best friends on that soccer team. You go through a lot with everybody. So that would be one reason I would have never quit. One, I'm too competitive with myself, but it was those, like, your teammates who make you want to stay too.
Yeah, I think that's something about Vermont players when they go to college, and even if it's the University of Vermont, because you are competing with players from all over the country that play for, you know, well-known clubs, and they go to all these tournaments. I think we inherently have a chip on our shoulder when we enter in. So I remember talking to you while you were going through it, and it seemed like to me that actually kind of pushed you a little bit to kind of prove people wrong.
Yeah, no, it definitely did. And Yeah, especially with that first coach, like it just made me want to work that much harder and show. And like even with my second coach, I mean, she made a point of it sometimes to tell people, especially some girls with attitudes, like if you had half of the heart that, you know, Jill had, then you would be the best player on the team. And it was just like girls who grew up playing on these great teams and their technical skills were definitely better, but like it's not everything. And so like hearing stuff like that and like sticking with it and just knowing like it really built up character. It was good to hear.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Which also, I know me and you talk about this all the time. And I think it's something that people are really interested in, especially if they want to go and play college soccer, is what's the biggest difference in your opinion between the jump from high school or competitive club soccer to college soccer? And then kind of in the context of what would you do differently in your youth career to help you prepare for it?
Yeah. Well, one, there is a huge difference between the speed of play from like Central Vermont and just like club in general to getting to like a D1 level. And so like for me, I relied again like on my athleticism and like my grit and competitiveness to, you know, kind of stand out. But once you get to college, everybody's super athletic. Everybody kind of just plays at a quicker speed. So if I could go back, I wish I didn't settle with like being better than, you know, most of the girls on like my high school team or like being the best on my club team. Like I wish I took it. Like if you want to be the best and be like a very successful college player, you've got to put the time in on your own. And I definitely didn't put as much time in. And looking back now, like, especially with like the School of Virgista or whatever you do, like if I had that back then, I hope I would have taken advantage of that, because just the fact that you like look at things like from a tactical perspective, and then to actually like do that technically out on like the court or the field, I just think that's so helpful. And then just like seeing on Instagram, like people just getting touches in, like I just wish I got more touches. I mean, I always say like Tobin Heath is my favorite player because she's everything I wasn't. Like I wish I just focused more on some technical stuff because that was my weaknesses. But I would always just say like, oh, it doesn't matter. Like I'll just, you know, work hard or whatever. But I would say definitely focus on your weaknesses and work on those on your own time. And it will really come in handy.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. And also I like how you plugged my program. So.
But and like I wish you weren't doing, like if I had you home coaching soccer when I was, you know, in college, I really think it would have been so helpful, because I also think like players now, you got to develop a love for the game. Like I wish I loved watching English Premier League or, you know, any of that stuff. Then you learn so much from watching it, and like you just really have to be a fan of the game, and then I feel like it will just make you so much better. And so I wish I surrounded myself with girls my age that were more like that, and like it would have been a little easier. But yeah, I mean, it's all, you look back on it and wish what you could do differently. But if I was there, I would definitely be more all about soccer.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Let's shift gears a little bit. Well, not really shifting gears, but as you said, you knew you weren't going to be a professional player, but you wanted to play college soccer. You also knew what you wanted your career to be. So why don't you talk a little bit about how balancing a college sport and balancing nursing school, specifically at UVM, how was that? How hard was that?
It was hard. And like, I think I'm modest and I just kind of take things, you know, and if I have my eyes set on something, I'm going to do it. But I mean, it was hard. It was helpful to talk to my coaches and say, look, like, you know, nursing is going to be my career. How can we navigate this? And I just feel like early communication with both your coaches and your professors, like, it made it so much easier. They were able to accommodate me, and the fact that I took it seriously, like if I was failing stuff, you know, or like not, you know, making it to practices, if I wasn't communicating, like it would have went badly. But if you just stay on top of it, and like stay determined, then it will be great. But I, again, was also lucky. Like all of my teammates took school seriously. We didn't get too distracted with like party scene or anything. So it was helpful to know that like everyone else would hold you accountable because everyone else was doing their part. But yeah, and like I knew I was too competitive. Like I wanted to do well in school, and I knew that was going to ultimately be what I was doing in life.
So you graduated in 2013. You started at CHOP in 2018. 2014. Yeah, sorry. Tell us a little bit about your career. What's it like being a nurse in general? How was it when you started right out of school? And how has your career kind of evolved from your first day to maybe now isn't a great time with a pandemic, but
yeah.
right before that?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's any players who are in college now or about to be. It's a hard transition for anyone going from college to career. It was especially hard going from athlete to like my best friends to then going to career in a different city. But nursing, I mean, you're dealing with kids in this situation's life. So it was high stress, and you're going from learning it on like paper and stuff to actually being thrown in the situation. So in the beginning, it's really stressful. I mean, again, it feels like freshman year, preseason. You don't really know anyone. You don't know how things work. But I really think that soccer in general, or any team sport, if anyone's looking to go in healthcare, it really does prepare you. You have to work as a team. You get in high stress situations and you learn how to deal with that stress. And they're definitely like you know, adrenaline comes into play with, I work in an ICU. So like in certain situations, but it's kind of funny. Like there really are a lot of parallels with that in like college soccer or just like life in general. Like I was so scared as a new nurse, and there's people you look up to. There's definitely going to be people who are not the nicest or doubt you, and you just have to be like confident with yourself. But now it is so crazy looking back on it. Like I just feel so much more confident. Whenever I have new people, I always try and think of how I felt, you know, that first year and help them out and give them advice on how to deal with it outside of, you know, work. But yeah, it's a balance with work, a work-life balance kind of with soccer and normal life too. So again, I'm thankful to have friends and family to kind of talk to, because, you know, sometimes stuff at work can be a little heavy, but you also have great people you work with that, you know, kind of they help you get through it too. So
nice.
Mm-hmm.
Great. So we had Christine Lilly on last week.
I know. Quite the act to follow.
Yeah, right. Who is always great. But she always talks about something that I think you are also a firm believer in. She is always talking about how she thinks it's so important to make fitness and exercising a part of your life, no matter whether you are trying to become a world-class athlete or you're just trying to be the best nurse that you can be. I guess, what's your stance on that? You're somebody who I think also believes in that.
Yeah, I 100% believe in that, and it keeps me sane. But again, like once you're in those situations, and granted she has been in much more competitive situations than me, but like fitness does just become a part of your life. And ever since college, like I feel like I'm always competing with myself to just make myself better. And for mental health, like I just think it is so helpful to have a routine with fitness, and then it always makes me feel better. I actually so I work 3 days a week. They're long days, but I have 4 days off a week. I started working at Barry's Boot Camp making smoothies just so I could get free membership there. Yeah, so like it's just ingrained in me. Like I don't really necessarily want to have to do all the social media stuff and all that, but like I just love being around fitness. And then just bought the Peloton bike. Like I love that. It's so great. So I really do think like having fitness be a part of your life, and just, I mean, it's hard. You go from having such a competitive spirit to like, for what now? But if you keep fitness alive in your life, like you're always going to be competitive with yourself. And, you know, I definitely can't. I just pulled a hamstring doing a burpee going up into a sprinter position, not even sprinting. So like, I definitely can't do the things I used to do, but to just be able to like keep fitness as a part of my everyday life has been awesome. So I can totally see where Christine Lilly's coming from. And I can't imagine like I still to this day say I wish I was in the soccer shape I was in college. So I can't imagine being like pro and then not doing it now, but
yeah. Cool. Well, I have a few more questions for you. And I wrote this in the chat, everybody who's listening. You know, if you have a question for Jill, we're going to open it up to Q&A in a few minutes here. But if you have a question, send me a message privately, and I'll get you in the queue to ask her one after we wrap up in a couple seconds. But one thing I want to ask you about was you did a program while you were in college called Soccer Without Borders. And I think this is something that our players would be interested in hearing, because it's a chance to travel and help people out through soccer.
Yeah. I know. I wish I kept up more with the organization right now too, to like be able to kind of give people who you could connect with. But yeah, it was the winter break my sophomore year. I went to Nicaragua with one of my best friends who now lives in Philly with me, but was a teammate at UVM. And what they do is they get like funds and donations to make this Soccer Without Borders, to then do camps with girls. And it's kind of to have them get involved with soccer, but also build confidence as like females in general, to get them, like a lot of them are going to med school, and like, so to make sure that they stay involved in the community and like know their worth. And it was a really cool experience, because like, I mean, I kind of went in with some ignorance thinking like, okay, I'm going to Nicaragua. It's like a poorer country, you know, they might not be as happy without like the cell phone I have or something. And it's such a cool experience to go down and then after realize like it's just a different lifestyle, but they're probably more happy than, you know, most Americans. And we stayed with a host family. They were so sweet. I mean, we couldn't understand anything they said. I wish I knew Spanish. And I was about ready to kill Lily, and she was about ready to kill me. But it was definitely a eye-opening experience. And now looking back on it, like the girls I was there with, I didn't really know at the time, but one of them was like the top scorer in the Ivy League when I was playing. Another one, DiMartino, like her sister played pro for a while. And like, I just didn't even realize it, that like there were some, you know, big time soccer players. It's just like a really cool organization. And I loved how they weren't just, it's not like a, you know, white savior, like we're here to say, like they're instilling like, this is what we're going to do, and get everyone involved. And they paid local coaches to be coaches. And it really just, it helped because these local coaches were like already involved in their communities, and kids already looked up to them. So it was great. And
Yeah.
going back, I wish I knew Spanish because I would have liked to talk with everyone a little bit more. But
Yeah, I tell a lot of people the cabeza cerveza story a lot.
I know.
Maybe a story for another time.
I know. Yep. Well, we got a beer out of it, I guess.
The last question I have for you, and then I'll open it up to people to ask questions.
Mhm.
So you and our sister Caroline and your guys' friend Ryan went to the World Cup last year.
Yeah.
To see the U.S. eventually win their fourth World Cup. As if we have to ask, how was the experience?
I know. It was so cool. I mean, it kind of was crazy how it was also a heat wave at the same exact time, and nowhere in there has AC. But besides that, it was the coolest experience. We saw them play France. I think that was one of the best games. The game against England was amazing. And then the finals. I feel like the game against England was almost more fun to watch. But again, I just have such an appreciation now about soccer, and I loved that team and love watching the national team now. And I mean, it was definitely like that when growing up, but I feel like I'm especially with social media, almost more involved now with watching all these players, and now with the NWSL and all that stuff. It's just so cool to watch them all, and then to actually see them. It was so awesome. I'm so happy I can say I went, and it was really cool too, because it felt like the U.S. was the home team every time. A lot of fans went over, and it was fun.
Nice, awesome. Mm-hmm. Well, that's it from me. We have a few people in the queue, so what I'll do is I'll ask people to unmute themselves. And oops, I think I accidentally muted you, Jill. And we'll go from there, and people can ask their question directly to Jill. And the first question is from her high school coach, Coach Eric Bagley.
Hey, Jill. Just a quick question, and don't hold back. Can you just talk about how great of a high school coach you had?
Oh, God. Are you still coaching?
I coach the boys now.
No, okay. No, it was my high school. I loved it. It was great. The coaching could have probably been better, but we made it work.
No. All right. Thanks, Jill.
You were awesome. The legacy was great. I'm kind of happy you don't coach the girls anymore. So you ended, with us.
Well, I ended a little bit after you.
A little past us. Yeah.
No, you guys had we had a good team when you were there, so it was definitely.
Yeah, no, it was awesome.
Yeah.
I actually do I'm not trying to just toot your own horn, but I appreciated you as my high school coach. I feel like you always gave me enough criticism, but I always knew you were my number one fan too. So it was helpful having you there. And then the fact that you let me train with your U17 boys sometimes, that was really helpful too.
Cool. Next question is from your dad, specifically about his alma mater.
What is it?
No.
Which one?
Well, remember, Jill, when we were in the recruiting process?
Yeah.
And I think this is going to be a plug for the University of Vermont. Remember?
Yeah, it is.
Because it was so important for you to be a nurse. Mm-hmm. And we did look at Villanova because it's a nice school. I went there, and your uncle Mike Barr actually was friends with the women's coach.
Yeah.
And that coach had told you and me that there was no way that anybody could play Division I soccer and study nursing at the same time, and he immediately wrote you off.
Yeah.
And I think I remember that. It pissed me off, but having a good life is the best revenge. You showed how to do it, and your
Yeah.
coaches at UVM really supported you in doing that. So
Yeah, no, I totally remember that email. And then it made me mad because I saw, like, I've met a few girls who are nurses now who I don't think they played at Villanova. One girl played basketball and stuff. So I don't know if he was underestimating my work ethic or just didn't think people could do it. But yeah, that kind of set a little bit more of a fire under me too, to make sure that I made it work. And like you said, yeah, UVM was great about it. I had no one on my a girl younger than me on my soccer team was doing it, but UVM even did like a live thing recently, and a few girls were nursing, and I made sure to reach out to them and be like, that's so awesome. Let me know if you have any questions. Like, you can totally do it. So I love to see anybody doing nursing and soccer. You really can make it work, and you'll be fine.
Totally. Nice. Next question is from Coach Joe Ulicki.
Hey, Jill, sorry. Yeah, sorry about
No,
that.
you're good.
Hi, I was going to ask you a question, and just be careful not to blow up your brother's ego too much with the answer, but I was curious about where sort of this drive came from for you. I remember playing against you in high school. You just talked about playing with Bags's U17 boys team. I'm not sure which team you were playing for, but we played in a boarded 7v7 indoor league at the Civic Center way back in the glory days. But where did the drive come from you, and why have you allowed that to kind of shape the way you've lived the rest of your life as you grew up?
I mean, I do think just being one of 5 kids, we've always been competitive. And then, I mean, it definitely helped to have John kind of pave the way with, I mean, we always make fun of, or kind of make fun of ourselves, because we would be traveling with John in anything he did. And a lot of the times that would be soccer tournaments or looking at colleges. I'm sure to much of John's dismay, he had his whole family always there. But like it was nice to kind of have that, example to follow. But then, I don't know. I mean, I'm just competitive, and I don't know if anyone's watching the Michael Jordan documentary. He's like 10 times above like where I'm at. But like, it is cool to see, like, you just have a competitive drive, and then you kind of just go with it. And especially like ever playing with the boys or playing up in an age group, or hearing that, like, Harwood had such a good girls team or something, like you just always want to be better. And that, I think, is really what like drove me. So yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Next question is from Coach Peter Kim, and I think it's actually a little bit of a follow-up to what Joe was talking about. Coach?
I don't know how to unmute you. There you go.
Hey, Jill.
How are you?
I'm fantastic. How about yourself?
Good.
Honored to be speaking to a hometown hero, and I'm glad you're doing well. I wanted to follow up because, in my travels, I have come across different soccer cultures, and in particular, the girls' game in other countries is not so segregated. In fact, in a lot of countries in Europe in particular, the girls just play right in the same league as the boys all the way through U15 or U16. And that's definitely not the case here. So I'm wondering if you can kind of expand upon what you said about training with Bags' boys team, what that does for you, and maybe give some advice to any of the girls who are listening here on the value of kind of breaking down those barriers.
Totally. I think one, like, if you can play with more people in general, and just especially with that U17 boys team, they played at such a faster pace than I did. And I was kind of going over this with John earlier, but I wish that I was more of a B word in high school. Like, I wish I didn't care what other people thought about. And I think when you play with boys, they'll like go hard in a tackle with you and, you know, do whatever. But at the end of the day, like, everyone just knows you're being competitive. So as a girl, I think sometimes it's hard for us because we think that we need to be like these nice people off the field and everything. But I wish we would be more competitive and like push each other harder sometimes and know that it's nothing against each other. And I think that's why it gets to be great when you do play with boys, because it makes you want to be like more competitive and see that like you're just playing soccer. Like, it's nothing against anyone else. You guys, like, everyone's just trying to be the best. And I didn't mention this earlier to you, John, but like the fact that you guys have the co-ed pickup, I feel like if that was me in my younger years, I would have been a little bit nervous because I never wanted to make mistakes, especially like around good players or around boys. But like, that's the only way you're gonna get better is if you play with both girls and boys of, you know, of any skill. And like, you're gonna make mistakes, but you're gonna get faster and get better with it. So like, I encourage any girls just coming from where I was as, you know, middle school or high schooler, like, you're so worried about maybe how other people view you, but people really, like, I feel like you get so stuck in your head, but people really aren't looking at you being like, oh my God, Jill just like tripped over the ball. Like, you're going to get so much better if you go to those pickup games and play with the guys. And, you know, even if someone did say something, it's only going to make you better. Like, it's only going to make you want to work harder. So that's one thing. If I could go back, I would have played more pickup, played with any of the guys, any of the girls. I worked out in Pittsburgh for a summer where one of my best friends lived in between junior and senior year. I went to do all of my track workouts and got all that done, but never jumped into the pickup games there because I was like too worried they'd be like, oh, you're a D1 player. And looking back on it now, that's one of my biggest regrets. Like, just jump in, just play soccer and have fun, and it's only going to make you a better player.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I think the next question comes from your first coach at Capital. I think you said it was Coach George Cook. Is he still on?
Yeah, I see him.
Yeah, there he is.
How can you not see me with my COVID hair?
It's like my
So,
COVID.
Jill, after you broke Pete's heart by not going to Middlebury,
God, I was not smart enough, but yeah.
there have been 2 Capital players since 1999 that I've asked my buddy John to look at.
Mm-hmm.
John's a coach at the University of Hartford, and he saw you play at the Needham tournament years ago. And the other player that I asked him to look at was Hannah Merriam, a player a few years younger than you who ended up at St. Lawrence. So out of all the players who played for us, and this guy being a good buddy of mine, I wanted to, you know, send him players that I knew were good.
Yeah.
And at the end of the match, he made what I thought was a spot-on comment about you. And I want you I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. He said, I'm looking for both the piano players and the piano movers. And what do you think he meant by that?
Well, did he think I was both of them or just one?
What do you think?
I mean, I definitely think I'm a piano mover, that I was never scared to get a little rough out there. And I definitely use that to my advantage. I do think, like, especially playing club and high school at the pace that I was used to, like, I definitely think I read the game well. But that's what I'm saying. I wish I put in a little bit more time with my technical skills because it helps you play so much quicker. Like if you have that good touch and then you're a smart player, especially with some of the stuff you're learning in your soccer school, John, is like, you know where to look next, but you got to first have that good touch. So I can definitely see myself as a piano mover. And I would, if I was the piano player, I would hope that I got a little faster if I put some more practice into it.
He had felt that a lot of his very technical players were too soft.
Yeah.
And was looking for piano movers.
Yeah.
And you are correct.
Yeah. So, and I think that's where, especially my junior, senior year, like I started to, my freshman and sophomore year, I really was hard on myself because I wasn't that like piano player, and that seemed to be the only thing that my one coach was looking for, and he was only there for 2 years. So like, obviously John was a good coach. He knows he needs like a balance. So that was hard for me to like grasp, but then my junior and senior year, I kind of came to terms, like that's the type of player I was. And especially in the America East, like it worked out. I was kind of more of like a brute force than like a piano player. So that's why I said I love watching like Tobin Heath play and stuff, who just has like all the dangles and was never a player that I would be. But, you know, sometimes she could get a little stronger on the ball too. So. John. Yeah, they kicked us out our senior year. That was my last game at Hartford.
Nice. That was a great question, Coach.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I mean, what you're saying there at the end, anything to get on the field, right?
Right.
You know, and I think you just talking about accepting your role and kind of who you are at that point as a player, I think is so important. And a big message we always try to tell our players is you want to accept the role that you have right now, and kind of embrace that role. And I say all the time, be the star of that role.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't mean you have to be satisfied with it. And I think you've talked about it a lot. Always trying to keep push on to be a better player and try to prove doubters wrong and things like that.
Yeah, and I think it's also a big thing. Like sometimes coaches will ask you to play a different position that you're not used to playing, especially like Crystal Dunn has always been like a striker and plays, outside back for the national team. And like I was used to being a center back for Capital and then ended up being an outside back. I think you have to be flexible and try and, like you said, like be the best in whatever role you're trying to fill for the team, but always, strive to be better too. So.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Well, it's 5:50, and I certainly don't want to keep you for too long. And so I just want to express on behalf of the club and of course as your brother for joining us on this call. I thought it was fantastic. Like you said, it's a tough act to following Christine Lilly, but honestly, Jill, I think what you talked about tonight is so useful for so many of our players, no matter where they want to end up. So thank you. Good luck with however long this pandemic lasts and keep doing your job. It's been said a lot in the media, but we are so grateful to all the healthcare workers and to all the nurses and doctors, really kind of risking their lives every day.
Thanks. I appreciate that. And thanks for everyone wearing their masks in public places. Yeah, but honestly, if anyone ever has questions about the college process or nursing school in general, I know that George has sent some students my way who are interested in travel nursing. I'm always happy to talk about it, and don't ever feel scared to reach out.
Great. Thanks, Jill.
Thanks, Jill.
See you guys.
Awesome to see you. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Bye. Did I just turn it off? Good.
Yeah.
I have Beth here turning it off for me. Okay, bye.
Bye.